Hi everybody, this is Oksana and this is kind of a funky little, kind of a mini pendant. It's pretty small that we're going to be making in this video here, and it uses round wire and some beads, but also a little bit of half round wire. You can use some thin round wire instead of the half round if you don't have any half round. It's just a little trickier to do, so that's why I prefer the half round. Another thing I just want to point out is there's a little join button down there. It is a new membership thing that I'm doing, or although I guess it's not that new. I have been doing it for a little bit now, but I hope you'll check it out. It's a really cool thing where you can see videos a week early. You can bid on jewelry that I make in my tutorials, and it's really fun, so I hope you'll check it out. So let's go ahead and make this pendant. So we're going to be using 20 gauge round copper wire, dead soft. It's from RioGrande.com. And then to make my connections, I'm going to be using 22 gauge half round wire. Now I know that not everybody has half round wire, and since we're already using the other wire that is round and you wanted to use all round wire, you can do that. I would use 28 or 26 gauge round wire. It just unravels a little more for me when I try to wrap with it, so that's why I prefer using half round, but it is doable with round. It's just a little trickier. And then I'm using a little round Labradorite that's 10 millimeters. And my wires, my two wires here that are the 20 gauge, they are 15 inches long. So here's what we're going to do. We want to find the middle of them by bringing the ends together. And you just kind of go like that, and then the middle is right here. Now the thing is, because we're using two wires, they can, obviously move around and separate. So it's up to you whether for this first little bit, if it's easier for you to take some kind of little piece of scrap wire, or anything really, cut yourself off just a tiny piece and wrap around just for the sake of holding them together so they don't keep coming apart on you as you're trying to do stuff. So that's what I did there. So once you have your two wires all nice and connected, what you want to do is you want to bend a circular kind of shape, and you can use, let me grab my bail making pliers. You can use your bail making pliers as well, but you just have to be careful because we got the two wires. They can kind of flip-flop on you, and like one can start to ride up on top of the other, and we want them to be side by side nicely. So this is the largest part of the bail making pliers that I'm putting this around. I find then that corresponds well with my cabochon. So now I'm just going to press down, because if you noticed, one of these wires was kind of more on top of the other instead of inside of it. All right, so once you've made yourself a little circle that you think works, you want to take your cabochon, you want to lay it on the cabochon, and make sure that it's smaller. So let me show you mine up close like this. See, it's because the cabochon is domed, just the front of it is peeking through, but the rest of it won't fit through because it's smaller. So once you have that, that's really important so your stone doesn't pop out. Once you establish that, either with your fingers or pliers, you want to make some bends here in your wires, because we want to bring them together. So when you do that, it can kind of change the shape of the opening that you've made. So you just want to recheck your cabochon that it isn't close to popping out. So once you've done that, you just want to grab some of the half round wire or the round wire. If you're doing the round wire, I would recommend you weave a little pattern, at least at first, so it doesn't unravel, since round wire is a little easier to unravel. So I grabbed a little end and I just wrapped around and around. And so this will be my back. You want to decide front to back, and on the back we're gonna have that little wire end that I just trimmed. So I got my half round wire started basically there. And now, because the rest of my half round wire is connected to my spool, you can't just go around and around with that. You have to take the piece and twist it as you guide the half round wire. And so that's what you want to do. All right, so you don't want to go too crazy here and make this too long. I'll show you what we do in 1 second here to measure if this is tall enough. So what we're going to do is, if you take your cabochon and you kind of hold it here to this little window. Hold on, that's hard for you to see. Let me do it this way. There, can you see the little hole above the cabochon right there? So basically, my cabochon ends like here, and then I just have this like little gap. So what I want to do is I just want to hold it like this and bend it to the back, like that. And then you can take your cabochon, you can put it there, and you can kind of squish this whole thing around your cabochon. Just press it down. And the key thing here is that the window is small enough so that the cabochon does not pop out, which it is. It's all good there. And then what you want to note here on the back is how close is this half round wire that we're wrapping to here, to where the cabochon ends. So I need probably like 3 more wraps with it to get to that point. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove the cabochon out of there, which is tricky because I'm trying not to drop it on the floor. All right, and then I'm going to undo this wire. If you did this wire in the beginning to help you hold your 2 wires together, you would undo it at this point. It's quite long, so I'm just gonna trim it to make this unraveling a little easier. All right. So once you've done that, we're gonna do, so when I looked at it, I think maybe like 3 more wraps. So I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3. And then I'll check if that was adequate. So you want to determine your cabochon positioning now. So like this. So because mine is Labradorite, the flash is in a certain direction, like a certain angle. So if I put it, upside down, it might not look blue, it might look gray. So that's why I did that. All right, so this wire here, this half round wire, just cut it and give yourself a nice long tail end, just like 5 inches or something. And then if you look, all right, I'm really gonna zoom in for this. If you look, the wire goes all the way up to where the cabochon ends. So that is tall enough. So if you look closely, because this is half round wire, this part is rounded and then the other side of it is flat. So we want to wrap it around these two wires here. So to do that successfully, I'm going to take this wire with my pliers and I'm going to turn it so that the rounded part is up and the flat side is down, because when we are wrapping around something, that's how we want it to be, rounded side up, flat side down. But mine wasn't like that because it was going around those wires and they're positioned differently. So just by grabbing it and turning it like that, I've repositioned it. So now you want to work it underneath these two wires and just pull on it with your pliers. Just pull on it tight because you want, sorry, I'm just making sure that everything is straight. This looks like it's a little crooked or something. All right. Yeah, it's all good. So you do want to pull it tight because you don't want there to be like a big gap and the stone to be wobbly in there. You want everything to be nice and tight. So once you do that, it becomes harder to tuck it under there. So I'm going to do it a few more times. Basically, the reason I'm doing it more times is because I'm trying to get from this side to this side. So maybe that's enough. I'm just gonna squish it. So I've done it 3 times. Actually, one more time. One more for good luck. All right. So 4 times. Now, this wire here, the way it's coming out flat side up, curved side down. So what we want to do is we want to grab it and we want to turn it like this so that the rounded side is now facing you, so that it lays nice and flat here with the rounded side up and the flat side down. And then we're going to wrap it around these 4 wires. So we're continuing because it was coming up around those 4 wires to begin with, and we're basically just continuing with that. We just had to turn the wire to reposition it because it's half round wire. So just keep wrapping it around. So you're guiding it and turning this, or you can just physically wrap it because it has a little end so it won't get twisted because it's no longer on the spool. Now you don't need to do this very much at all because this is for the bail, unless you want like a really tall bail because you have a big thick necklace to put through it. Otherwise, you don't need to do it very much at all. So I've trimmed off the wire end and I left it here. So the wire end needs to be here on the front. And then just go over that by just squishing it all down like this. All right, now you want to grab something round to bend your bail around. I'm just going to grab my bail making pliers and I'm just going to do this one here, the third smallest size, and I'm just putting it here where my little weaving or wrapping ends, and I'm bending the 4 wires around the bail making pliers like this. Now that looks slightly crooked, so I am just going to adjust that a little bit. Okay. So what you want to do now is there are 4 wires, so you want to split them so there's 2 on each side. And here's what you want to do. You want to take if you want to keep your bail making pliers in here, you can do that. It'll help retain the shape of your bail, but you want to bend them to the side like that. And then you want to kind of pop them behind the other wires. So then if you come here, you want to bend them so they're just going down alongside the other wires, but on the back. So here's the back. So the wires are going here. They're not going up here in the front. So to the back, and then bend them in the back. So they're going alongside. Oop, mine got a little twisted there. I'm just gonna grab my pliers. There we go. They just kind of switched positions there. All right. So once you have those, here's a closer look so you can see how they're basically in the back. You want to just bend them a little bit like this so they form like a triangular shape here on the bottom. And then you want to take one of those wires, so whatever ones are in the front for you, and you just want to bend them just carefully because you don't want to disform your triangular shape that you've made, because it's all like nice and centered. So you're just bending them, and then here on the back you're cutting them, but leave yourself a little end because it's basically like a little loop that we've made, and now we're taking these little wire ends and we're pointing them down. And this is really important because this is going to be, the back of your pendant is going to be up against your skin potentially, and so you just want those wire ends to be pointing down into the wire so you cannot feel them. So now these other two wires, just want to find a comfortable way to hold your piece with your pliers, and then you're bending those two wires. So here's our little connection there. You might have to like fix that up if it moved out of place, and then here's the bend that we've made. So you just want to reinforce that bend so it's just a little tighter. We don't want like a big huge gap the way mine is right now. Here's what it's looking like. So now you have two wires, and you want to take the leftmost wire and you want to make a little swirl with it. So right now I'm just holding it upside down. We're making a little swirl. You can use your pliers to get in there if you want, but you want the swirl to go around and then to the side. Don't make it go all the way up against the edge. We need that for the other wire to connect to. So leave yourself just a tiny bit of space there. Bring it to the back. And then here on the back, we're just gonna trim it short, but not super short, because you want that little end, that little wire end, so that you can kind of close up that loop and squish that little wire end down so it's going basically into the wire, so then you won't be able to feel it or scratch yourself on it. So then with this wire here that we have left, all right, so for this next bit we're going to be using some copper beads for decoration, and I have two sizes here. They're from Rio Grande. These are the 2mm beads. This is the whole size They're the seamed beads, and then these are the 3mm beads. So I'm going to start with the 2mm beads, and I'm just going to slide them on to my wire so they'll fit the 20 gauge round wire, but not square. So I'm kind of bending this wire because I do eventually want it to come in this direction here, and I'm kind of looking to see. You have to play around with how many beads to put on there. So I'm putting a third one on there of the 2mm, and now I'm gonna go ahead and put the bigger 3mm on there. You're basically just trying to fill it with beads, and now it's gonna need maybe one of the 2mm beads there. You can do whatever pattern you want. You don't have to do it like I'm doing it. But I think that gets us to the end there. Maybe one more, because I don't want them to slide around, and if I don't do beads all the way, you know, till the wire is over and it bends, then there'll be space for them to slide around. So I think one more. All right, so let's take a closer look so you can see we've got 3 small beads, 1 big bead, 2 small beads, and now we're bending that wire to the back and doing the same thing we did before, where you trim it, but you leave yourself a little tail end there so you can tuck it downwards away from the skin so it won't poke at you when you wear it. And there we have it. Now there's one more step that I personally like to do. You may not feel that it's necessary, but I personally just feel more comfortable if I do it. So as of right now, you can see this can kind of move a little bit, and this also helps trap the cabochon in a little more. So I like to add a piece of wire. So I just cut myself a piece of half round wire. It's probably like 6-7 inches. So I'm putting it flat side down, rounded side up, under here, so it's on my cabochon underneath this little wrap. And if you look in the front, you'll see both ends of it sticking out. So what I like to do is I'm gonna take it. If you look closely, you might see that there's like a little hole there where your the very bottom of your cabochon. So I like to just tug that in to that little hole and just kind of pull on it, and do that 2 more times so I get 3 little wraps there. I'll show you up close like that. It's just extra security, I feel like. It just makes it. I'm just doing the same thing on the other side. Just holds everything together. One additional little wire, and it's just so easy and quick to do. Might as well. So once you're doing the other side, you're just trying to keep it symmetrical to the first side. So this needs to be just a smidge lower, or maybe this one needs to be a smidge higher. There we go. So once you've done that, you just want to trim off here on the back. Just trim those off pretty short. And I know we're going to have technically some wire ends on the back here, but they're really short, and because it's a half round wire, it just kind of pinches down flat and it doesn't tend to stick up and poke you or anything. So here's what it looks like on the back. Here's what it looks like from the front, and we are done with this pendant. So hopefully you've enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.